In some ways, I've learnt more about the establishment since our victories in 16 than I'd learnt in the 25 years before. What I've learnt is that these people will never, ever give up. They will never give up. Their attempt to control our lives, their attempt to take away our liberties and freedoms, their attempt to drive our economies towards the big corporates against the interests of the small and medium-sized businesses. Even I, despite my years of literally hand-to-hand combat with all of these people, I've enjoyed it, but even I underestimated just how determined they are to stop our agenda from winning. And so, the converse itself is true as well. That liberty and freedom and national self-determination and the right of nation states to make their own decisions and chart their own course, these things that I value, and I hope that many of you in this room value, cherish, and treasure, these things don't come for free. And these things, I'm sad to say, have to be fought for the whole time. Edmund Burke, if we go back to the late 18th century, Burke said that all it takes for evil to flourish is for good men, and we can modernize that now and say good men and women. All it takes for evil to flourish is for good men to do nothing. And we should, all of us, and me more than anybody in the world, having been involved in both of those revolutions, the only person that was, we can celebrate, we can crack a bottle of champagne, we can say, wasn't it marvelous? But all those victories will be lost unless we're prepared to go on battling and fighting, because rest assured that the establishment, the globalists, and everybody else will go on fighting. And what we did in 2016 is we inspired people across the Western world to believe that anything is possible. And this year may not have been as dramatic as last year, but think about this. In the first round of the French presidential elections, 46.5% of the French electorate voted for candidates that wanted to leave the European Union, something that was unthinkable 10 years ago. We've just had the Alternative for Deutschland, who are a mixed bag. They are a mixed bag. There are one or two folks in there that I wouldn't support, but it's a new rebel movement, and new rebel movements attract all sorts of people. They now have 93 seats in the Bundestag, a fundamental change in German politics. And I was in Berlin supporting the lead candidate for Berlin, one Beatrix von Storck. It's a name that makes English speakers laugh, but it's not her fault. It's the stuff of British comedy, really, but there we are. But watch that name, folks. Beatrix von Storck, the Duchess of Oldenburg. She will become the leader of the AfD, and she'll bring it respectability and decency, and they will go on. And look at what is happening now in Eastern Europe. Well, we call it Eastern Europe. Actually, in many ways, it's Central Europe. Look at what is happening in the Czech Republic, in Slovakia, in Poland, and of course, above all, in Hungary. Hungary, fortunate to be led by a brilliant Prime Minister in Viktor Orban, perhaps the best leader the Western world has got today. A man who is standing up, who is saying, I will not pay for Mrs. Merkel's ludicrous, crazy errors. We're not engaged in a war against the entire religion of Islam, but what we are engaged in is a war against radical extremist Islam. It is the biggest threat we face to our civilization, and we have to stand up and fight it. And then look at how the globalists have behaved over Catalonia. an attempt by the Catalans to hold a referendum. An attempt not sanctioned, it must be said, by the National Parliament, but the free will of people to go out on a Sunday and to express their view. In a free country, you can't stop people, it seems to me, from going out to express a view. And yet, what were they met with? 10,000 Spanish riot police, 900 people seriously injured, women being dragged by their hair out of polling stations. Every attempt made to stop an exercise in democracy. And what was the response from the international globalist community? Well, to begin, it was zippity. To begin, they wouldn't say a word. And my God, I enjoyed challenging Juncker in the European Parliament last week on this, to say, why have you said nothing? Why have you, the people that want to interfere in the affairs of Polish appointments to the Supreme Court, or border policy in Hungary, or virtually anything the British have done for the last 30 years, why are you mute on this violent display, an attempt to stop people from opting to use their rights of national self-determination? Well, they changed that view within 24 hours of my challenge, and they said they thought, the European Commission, that necessary force had been used. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been warned. You have been warned. The globalists who want to take away our liberty and our freedoms are just the same people who built the Soviet regime that led to the death of tens of millions. The parallels are there. The parallels are clear. Be careful, be wary of those that offer big global solutions. Be careful of those who tell you that they know better than you, the great unwashed, how you should live their lives. And take heart from the fact that what you've seen in Catalonia, what you've seen in France, what you're seeing today in Poland and in Hungary and in Germany and elsewhere, what you're seeing actually is this: the great global revolution of 2016 is far from over. In fact, in many ways, provided we're strong enough and we're brave enough and we have sufficient resolve, it may be only just beginning. Thank you.